So welcome, Steve, to Team Talk. Thank you
Hi,
for
Jay.
joining us.
Yeah, no, great. It's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a really nice chat between us. I say between us, but obviously the audience will be listening in as well. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Indeed. If you don't know Steve, this is Steve Judge. He is a world champion athlete, a global speaker, and author of a couple of books now, isn't it? Your most recent one, Gold, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point later on. But today, our focus is going to be about resilience and what it really means. Hopefully, there's going to be tips for leaders as well as leaders educating their team. And I invited Steve on this topic because I think he's got quite a lot of experience himself, as well as experience as a speaker and coach on this subject. So, Steve, why don't we just start off with you know the word resilience? What does it conjure up? What does it mean when you hear it?
Oh my goodness, that do you know that it takes me back to the pandemic days, if we're allowed to talk about those 2020,
Yeah.
because the word resilience was being battered around a lot. You need resilience. You need to pull on your resilience. Use resilience, and people going, okay, what is resilience? I don't know what it is. I know I need it, and I thought I think I know the answer to this because I've been from my journey that took me from wheelchair to world champion and beyond in business. I've used resilience in every step of the way. So what I then had to do was like break it down for myself to work out what resilience is. Because once I understood what I'd been through and what it is, then I can share it with other people. That would help other people. They could use it. They could benefit from it, etc. So here is the concept. So what I call it riding the wave of resilience to become a winner. As in, if you ride the wave of resilience, you can become better than where you started. Resilience is a good thing if you use it correctly. The wave starts at one end, it goes down, sadly, to rock bottom, and then it comes back up. And it goes through shock, denial, anger sharing, rock bottom, taking action, moving forward, and off you go. So let me just break that down a little bit more. The first one is shock. So something happens, like there's a change, adversity, it could be an accident or whatever, or you got divorced or you lose your job. Shock. You go into the fight or flight mode. We all know that.
Yeah.
But what's happening there is you've got cortisol that's being released, which makes you go into the fight or flight mode. And there's nothing you can really do about it. Now, the next step is denial. And what happens there is the testosterone kicks in to protect ourselves. And denial comes in the form of, I can't believe that this can't be happening. This is crazy. I don't think this is happening. We need to just pull ourselves together and just like crack on. But then you realise that it is happening, and the testosterone gets mixed with the cortisol, and then that starts making you angry about what's happened, about the situation. You're not happy about it. You're quite happy where you were. Now look at where you are, and anger. Now anger will start bringing you down this wave.
Yeah.
Now, this is important. But it's important for you to realise what's going on. I am angry. I know what's going on. The cortisone is being mixed with the testosterone. You can't deny it. So what you've got to do, as I suggest, this is what I talk about with my clients that I coach, is you've got to accept it and use it. So what can you do to release the anger? Maybe go to the gym, maybe go for a run, maybe go for a fast walk or a punch bag or a pillow fight or scream in a pillow or shout at somebody in a controlled environment. Because if you don't control it, it's going to burst out. It's going to burst out to somebody that you don't want it to, like your boss or your partner or something like that. And that's not very nice. So it's about controlling the anger in the best way possible. You're still going to be coming down. And the next one is sharing.
Before we go on,
yeah.
all of those things, they're kind of like a physical activity. Does it have to be a physical activity, or?
For anger, it generally is. Unless I'm always looking for options. You know, if somebody says I was angry and I did this about it, I think the non-physical is probably the next step, which is the sharing, which is when the oxytocin is released. Now, oxytocin is like a comfort chemical that's released. And you're right there, James, that doesn't have to be as physical. To share, you just need you can talk to somebody like a coach, a therapist, or somebody in business or your partner. But you can actually, because not everybody likes to talk about things, you can just do a journal, or you can read poetry, or you can listen to music, listen to the lyrics in the music that really, in tune with what you're going through, or watch a film that might make you cry, but that's okay because you're sharing your emotions. And that's less physical. So the anger, it's very hard to do a non-physical anger, but it's easier to do a non-physical sharing side. This will still bring you down. And again, accept that you have to share. If you say, I don't need to share, I'm fine, I can just carry on, you're going back to the denial, to be honest. And if you don't do it correctly, you just go round and round in a circle. Now, after the sharing, you hit the bottom, and this is called rock bottom. This is a dark place, and this could be just sulking for a little bit, or it could even be worse. It could be depression. Now, this depends on what's happened in the first place. It also depends on how you've controlled the anger and the sharing part as to how long you go through rock bottom. But the light is at the end of the tunnel, because after the rock bottom phase, you've got the acceptance phase. The acceptance means that's when the serotonin is released. And serotonin means that you can start thinking clearly about what on earth is going on and what you can do about it.
Yep.
And start taking, you accept it, you start going up the curve at long last, and you start taking action. Now, when you take action, the dopamine is released because you feel good about it. So you keep doing more action, more dopamine, more serotonin. You can think clearly, you can start moving forward. And what you do is you start coming up the curve, and you get to the point of moving forward to the new level. And I say the new level because where you started, where you finished is actually higher than where you started, meaning you've gone down the curve, you come up because you controlled it all correctly, meaning that the wave of resilience can be a good thing if you do it correctly. Much as when you started, it was a really bad thing that happened, like you lost your job or your partner or the pandemic or anything like that. But controlled correctly, you can actually say, look, I can make a good point of this. It's like a positive mindset in a way, but you're taking more action to ride the wave of resilience to become a winner. And that is the concept.
Fantastic! Oh, what an amazing concept.
Yeah.
For those people who like to take action, can you shortcut that, Steve, or are you missing stuff? If you went straight from shock to some sort of positive action that was not hitting back or something, have you missed something? Have we missed something from that
I think
process?
so. From my experience, you can. Okay, but I also think sometimes you go through the concept very, very quickly. As in, something happens that I can't believe this has happened. I'm so annoyed about this. Anyway, what do you think about this? It's crazy, isn't it? God, I feel so frustrated. Right, let's take action. So you can do it like in a minute. You can like whiz through them. However, if you don't do it properly, it will come back to you. So you'll move on. And you're kind of in denial. You're taking action. You're putting all your efforts and your adrenaline, and you're feeling good. But actually, you've never given yourself any time to be angry about what did happen, about sharing with somebody about how you did feel about it. And that's just going to go down in it. Now, something like that will fester, in my opinion. And then that can lead to something like mental health issues, which is not good. So that's why the sharing is so important. The anger is so important to release. And it can be whatever way you want to be. Like I said, it could be walking, it could be the gym. So you might not need a punch bag and just go, but you need to do something, in my opinion, to still move through that process. But I do believe that you can almost jump through them very, very quickly. But I think you still need to go back and do them some other time.
So you're almost asking yourself, am I denying a real need to release by taking action?
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be angry. If you're angry about something, good, that encourages you to do something about it. If you need to share about it, sharing's always good. You might get new ideas. Your idea might not be good enough, or they might be able to help you with your idea. It's always good to share and talk about things. The rock bottom, the sulking bit. The sulking bit is something that's very much up to you. I feel that when you're in that zone and you're just sulking, you just don't want to do it. That's fine. But the question you've got to ask yourself is, how long am I going to do this for? Because nobody else around here is sulking. It's just me. It's just me that's sulking. Nobody else is. How long am I going to sulk for? And I'm like, well, a bit longer because I'm really, really miffed about what happened. So I'm going to sulk a bit longer. Okay, are we finished yet? Okay, yeah, I think we're finished now. Right, let's take some acceptance and action and move forward. But yeah, allow yourself to go through if that's what you need. Because sometimes skipping that bit, say, no, I'm fine. Again, it will catch up with you later.
Yeah, as you were speaking through it, it reminds me, I'm not an expert in this field, but it reminds me of almost a grieving process through some of the stages that you might need to go through.
Yeah, very much grieving process, and there's a lot of things that I've read about and seen, and subconsciously taking those things, use it as the wave of resilience, but the very similar terminology about accepting what you're going through and dealing with it. So yeah, I think grieving, again, I think you need resilience. It's like change, isn't it? You need to go through that process. It's something that you weren't expected, and it goes back to the quote that I love, is that you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to what happens to you. And this is where the wave of resilience comes in. Something bad has happened, something unexpected has happened, and which you can't control, but you can control how you react to it.
How important is the sharing bit? Because I know different personalities have different tendencies to share openly. I know in what you just said, it doesn't have to be an external share. It could be acknowledging your emotions, watching a film or TV lyric. And what's that?
It's very important. I've actually found this out recently. So sometimes you can find out through experiences, as in that didn't work, I need to do better next time. Sometimes you can get help from therapists and coaches and things like that. So without going off on too much of a tangent, I ended up in hospital 2 weeks ago, so it's still quite fresh. I had a massive infection. 5 days, and it's bad because the NHS always want to get you out the next day or the day after that.
Right.
5 days I was in for really bad infection. Before that, I'd had some kind of a virus at home, and I was like knocked out. And I just thought, I wonder how I got that. No dog bite, no scratches or anything like that. How did I get a virus? How did I get an infection? But then on the last day, just before I got out with a big bag of antibiotics, I suddenly realised what had caused it, and it was the last year and a half. I've had a real troubled year and a half. I've had relationship problems. So 7.5 year relationship was just finished. I've had business issues, not going quite as well as I thought, which then causes money problems. And then you got things like little things. And it's very much like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think all these little things added up. And I was fit and healthy. I went for a run before I got, rushed to hospital. So I was fit and healthy. My weight was good. Everything was good. The one thing I wasn't doing was talking about anything that I've just mentioned.
Okay.
I was kind of in that denial phase, or maybe talking about it with myself, or just putting on some good music and thinking, oh, yeah, I'm okay. And as a motivational speaker, I'm not using this as an excuse, but I wanted to always come across as positive and motivating. So when everybody asked me, Steve, how are you? I'd immediately say, yeah, I'm fine. How are you? How can I help you? How can I motivate and inspire you? It's all about them. And so this last week and this week, I'm now changed. I'm trying to use the right words. I'm not trying to do that. I actually am doing it. When somebody says, how are you, Steve? I'm being open and saying, I'm okay today, but I've had some problems in the past or the last week or something. Now, the problem with this is that they then say, what's been going on? It takes 5 minutes to explain what's been going on. It's so much easier for me to just say, yeah, I'm fine. How are you? Isn't the weather nice? Blah, 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 blah. And we can get on. But I've learned that if you don't share correctly, whatever way that is to you, then it will fester and it will come up in bizarre ways in some physical form as well. It might be a rash, or it might be a click that you've got, or you might not be able to sleep well, or you might be emotional, or you might be sent to hospital for 5 days. That it will eventually catch up with you. So sharing is extremely important, and it's very important for you to find out how to do it. So what I've got to do now moving forward is I've got to set something in stone. So last week, great, I phoned lots of people, family and friends, and said, I've not been telling you stuff and this is what's going on. They go, oh, wow, I hope you're okay.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do now is meet up with people maybe once a week or once a month. And talk as well, not just meet up with them. So sometimes I meet up with my friends, we go cycling and we just talk about stuff, and then we come home. That's not working. So I'm not saying I need to take a checklist with me, but I need to say, this is what's been going on. And also, how are you? Would you like to open up? And I'm not saying, it's not a sexist thing, but I think men are generally worse at this than women. So
Can be,
as a
yeah.
man, I've got to lead by example and open up. That's the thing. I've got to open up. I've seen the consequences if I don't do that. So I've got to do that more. And that, I admit, is very difficult for me, but it's something I'm working on.
Well, thank you for being so open here.
Yeah, that's all right.
And I hope you're feeling a lot better now.
I am feeling. Do you know? I'm still emotional. I've literally cried every day about something. It's bizarre. So I guess I'm still not through it yet. But I'm physically a lot better. The infection's gone, and I'm fit and healthy, and swimming, cycling, and running. But I also realise that that's a different thing. If you're fit and healthy physically, great, really good. That's good for wellness. But that doesn't. Your mental health is different. So your mental health can be helped by you being physically fit, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
So I've got to work on my mental health as well. Mental health, it's such a buzzword at the moment, and now I'm using it. So I'm not saying I'm jumping on the bandwagon, but it is, I've suddenly realized how important it is. And it's not just going for a walk, and getting some fresh air. It's not just getting sleep, not just drinking a pint of water. It's more than that. And you've got to find out what that is and how you've got to open up and share, because there will be consequences. And sometimes it won't be this month or this year, it'll be 5 years down the line, but that eventually it will catch up with you. So yeah, really important. But thank you for asking, James.
No problem. Interesting. One of the things, if you don't mind me picking up, one of the things that you said there is kind of what you thought you should be doing. You should be responding because you are this, this famous athlete and global speaker. And I was talking only this morning to a leader about role modelling, and sometimes it's just as important to flip that the other way. Be interested to get your perspective on it, because if they realise that you are a human like anyone else, not that has emotions and has feelings, not just some amazing, should be fantastic speaker, then that makes things more attainable and achievable to people that follow you, that might be in your team. What's your perspective on that, Steve?
Totally agree. The word we use in speaking a lot is authenticity. People love authenticity. If you're open and honest, then people like you, they trust you. And so when I go through my story on the stage, I'm open, I'm honest, I'm authentic about what happened to me, how I felt, how I cried, how much pain I was in. But then obviously, as it's a motivational story, I got up and I became a world champion and crossed the finish line and got the gold medal. The problem with that, much as people think I'm being authentic, and I am, is it's all rehearsed, it's all scripted. I've been doing it for years. It's the same thing. So it's almost, I'm not being as emotional as I could be. It looks like I am, but if I come off the stage, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and somebody said, "So how are you now?" I'd say, "Yeah, I'm fine," and I clearly wasn't fine. So being authentic is so important, and it's important for people to know you, to trust you, to like you, but it's important for yourself to be authentic as well. So why did I not want to be authentic? You kind of put me on the spot here. I think it's because a lot of us, so there's two reasons. One is we don't want people to we don't want to like get rid of our armor, so we want to protect ourselves and want to almost pretend that everything's okay because we don't need any help. And also we're convincing ourselves that everything's okay, so it must be okay because I keep saying everything's okay, so everything's okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is, for example, I've not shared what I've been through in the last 2-3 weeks at all with anybody apart from family and friends on an individual basis. I've not gone onto social media. This is the first thing. This is a highlight, James. This is unique of me sharing
Okay,
this.
it's a cathartic exercise for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the reason I haven't put it on social media is because I could have done when I was in hospital. I had Wi-Fi. I could have put something on saying I'm in hospital. I'll tell you about it later or something. I would have been inundated with loads of messages saying, "Oh, I hope you're okay, Steve. Hope things get better." Blah blah. I didn't want that. I would say is I don't want anybody's pity. I just want to get better. I just want to get out of hospital, to be honest, and get home. So my theory is that I would absolutely definitely post about this at some point when there's a conclusion to it. So I was in hospital. This happened to me. I now know why it happened to me. This is what I've done about it. How about you? That then helps other people to do something for themselves. If it's all about me, woe is me, give me some pity. Okay, that's great, but how's that helping anybody? I'm all about helping people. And if I've got this thing that's happened to me, like my story, growing my leg back, becoming world champion, I share that now to help people. I'm an achievement catalyst. I want change in people's lives so that they can achieve the things they want to do. Now I can talk about mental health because, I've always had I think we've all had a bit of mental health, but I've had it more recently and I've understood what it is and what caused it. And I can use that to help other people. To help other people to open, to share, to be authentic all the time, as much as they can be. I understand this might will scare some people, but the fact that I found out what the consequences are, and I don't want anybody else to go through that, so I want to share it in the best way possible. So that's why authenticity is so important.
Coming back to resilience, I'm sure there's been moments that you've lived through and you could speak of where you were you're at rock bottom, to use your wave analogy, Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, at that point, you thought, maybe you had thoughts of, oh my god, you weren't thinking which model of something useful can I use? Yeah. Have you had that kind of moment where you just stuck there?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the lowest time was I'd had the accident, told I may never walk again, started my rehabilitation phase, growing my leg back, learned to stand, learned to walk again, couldn't get my legs straight. If I couldn't get my legs straight, I couldn't walk it properly. I'd have a limp for the rest of my life. My bone would not grow back properly. I'd have hip problems, back problems, etc., etc. I was like, okay, I get it. I need to get a straight leg. So I said, what do I need to do to get a straight leg? They said, you need to do more physio. I did more physio. That did not work. After 3 months, I say I failed. And I said, look, what's next? And they said, look, we've got a plan B, but you might not like it. The plan B was to have another cage, like a big metal cage on my leg. So I
Right.
had two now. And I'd gone back in a wheelchair to have that put on. Now, with a double cage on, it's like having scaffolding round. I couldn't walk anymore. I couldn't get up the stairs anymore. It was so heavy to lift up. I couldn't get into bed on my own. Somebody would have to lift it up and I couldn't get out of it. I was very static and I lost my independence and I was back in a wheelchair and I'd almost felt that I'd gone backwards in my whole rehabilitation. That's the worst thing ever. And this was a year anniversary. So I couldn't help but think, where I was a year before this. I was fit, healthy. I was, and then I had that car accident. And now look at me now, a year later, I'm still in a wheelchair, still static, still in pain, not sleeping. And it was horrible. And around that time, because it was a year, I got a letter through the post and it said, clearly, Steve, it's been 12 months now. Clearly, Steve, you're unable to come back to work. I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to end your employment. And that to me was just like the worst thing ever. And it was at that point that I fell apart. I remember crying, but it was different kind of crying. So I was crying, and when I stopped crying, I couldn't hold it back. It just kind of built up inside me, and then it burst out again and again and again. And I just did nothing for 4 days. I did no more physio. I just lay on the settee and just watched telly and just didn't do anything. And so that was the lowest point, I would say,
Had
that
you
I
kind
was
of given up at that point?
I'd given up on everything. I just didn't want to do anything anymore. Everything I'd done the year leading up to that had been a waste of time because I'd gone backwards. I was back in the wheelchair. I had a double cage on. So that's how low I was. But so the answer to this and the end of this little story is on the 5th day was when I took a look at myself and I hated who I'd become. I was a waste of space. I was unwashed, unshaven, not doing anything, not moving forward at all. And I hated that. I hated it so much that the next day I just didn't want to be that person anymore. I wanted to be something else. I'm always talking about goals, having a vision and working towards that. When times are tough, do it the other way around. Where are you now? You just don't want to be there. Okay, let's do something, small steps, step by step, to not be there.
It's often a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah. The next day I had a wash. The next day I had a shave. The next day, I turned the television off and started doing some physio. The next day I took steps. The next day I Googled something to help me move forward, bit by bit by bit. And it wasn't leaps and bounds. It took ages, but I just didn't want to be that person that was on the sofa crying every single day. And eventually I moved forward and eventually, I got my legs straight and the cage came off and I was able to stand again and walk. And then the other cage came off and I made progress and move forward. But yeah, that was a pinnacle bit of, at that point, not thinking about what I wanted in the future, but I just didn't want to be where I was then. And I think that's
And is
really...
that anger coming out? Is that the feeling you had?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of wave of resilience. Probably, I guess it just goes backwards and forwards sometimes. I'd accepted the situation I was in. So I'd got this double cage on, so it's just coming back to me. And that was a shock. And then it was denial. So, it probably won't be on for long, but it was. I think it was like 70 days. It was 7 weeks. It was 7 weeks. And then I was angry about that because of the pain that I was being in, no sleep. You can imagine the sleep deprivation. And then the sharing, I probably didn't share as much as I could have done, but I probably did, to my partner then. Rock bottom. And that was the 4 days of rock bottom. But the time after that was acceptance. I accepted the situation that I was in and I did not like it. And that's why I did something about it. That's why I had a shower and a shave and did physio. So I'm still using the wave of resilience to get me out of there. And I think the big key word there was acceptance, accept the situation. Otherwise, I would have just stayed in that rock bottom phase, moping around, not doing anything, and going, "It is what it is, isn't it? No, that's the way life hits you. You know, going to roll with the punches, and here I am. I'm just going to stay here." And I was like, I don't like here. I hate who I've become. I've accepted the situation of this, and I don't like it. I'm going to do something about it.
I really like that, because some people, resilience is bandied around a lot as a word, isn't it? And sometimes
Yeah.
it's a kind of an attitude of just lump it and get on. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
I'm promoting. And I guess what I like about that story is it's almost to say, well, like, yeah, you can just accept stuff, but if you don't like it to the point that you're angry, that's a good thing. As long as you channel it, isn't it? You've got to do something with it. You've got to.
Oh, absolutely, James. Yeah, if you're angry about it, good. Right. How angry? Tell me how angry you are. Right. What are you going to do about it? You can take some action, because it sounds like you need to take some action. It's like if you're impatient about something, great. Let's get on with it now. If you're really impatient, let's do it now, today. Go. And people see these as negative things. And yeah, I understand that. But again, it's the mindset thing of this is an opportunity to actually move yourself forward. Like change. Nobody really likes change. Change is horrible. Why not just leave it the way it was? Okay, but to get your mindset round, okay, so how can we make this better? How can we make this better for ourselves? And going through the wave of resilience to make that change better for you is not easy. None of this is easy. I just want to clarify that. None of this is easy. My rehabilitation story was not easy. I talk about it as a motivational speaker, but it was necessary. It's what I had to do. And it's down to the individual to take action. It's choices. It's all about choices. You can either do it or don't do it. A lot of people moan about it. Okay, that's fine. That's a sharing stage. But what action are you going to take about it? It's a choice. And stop leaning on your excuses and turn those excuses into challenges and do something about it. Otherwise, you're just moaning. And after a while, that just gets boring. So, to move forward, wanting to move forward, then other people can help you to do that. And that's what I do. When I'm coaching my clients, this is the thing that I do. Get into it, to admit, what they're going through, how angry they are, the sharing part, the rock bottom. Right. Now you accept it. Now let me help you. I've got some tools, I've got some techniques, I've got some stories, some case studies, and I help my one-to-one coaching. I help those clients to move forward with the what they want to achieve in their life, so they can actually go and live it.
Fantastic. You've almost got to be resilient. You have to care enough to get angry about it, almost.
Yeah, it does help. It speeds things up. If you say, it is what it is, I'm not actually that bothered. You go, okay, well, I guess we won't do anything then if you're just happy where you are. But it's being open and honest again. Are you really happy about are you really happy about that change or that adversity that's hit you? If you are, then great. But there's different ways of looking at it, and it's so hard when people say, actually, I'm quite, because I always ask people the question, are you happy or content in life, or both? Are you happy and content? And they're thinking about it. And I say, well, I'll tell you where I am. So I'm very happy in doing what I'm doing as a global speaker, running my workshops, doing my one-to-one coaching. I love doing that. And when I say coaching, that's public speaking coaching or resilience coaching or transformational coaching. But I'm not content. I'm not content of where I am. I've got so much other stuff that I want to do, to other people that I want to help, more countries that I want to speak in, more workshops I want to run, more people that I want to help, more books that I want to write. I've got a feature-length film that's we're working on at the moment, a documentary that's being made about me. This is great. So I'm not content as to where I am, but I'm very happy. Now, other people, some of them think that they say the same, or some of them say, actually, I'm not happy where I am, and I'm not content. And you go, right, great, let's do something about that. But the people that say, do you know what? I am happy where I am, and actually, I'm quite content. I'm like, really? Wow. Okay, then I guess we're done here, aren't we? But I would ask them the question: are you really content as to where you are with your health, your wealth, your happiness, your environment, your relationship, your work, the day to day, everything that you do in that week? You're really content with that? You wouldn't change a thing? Wow, good for you. I'm almost jealous in a way, because they achieved it. They're like, woo, I'm content with life. But yeah, I'd also say I would just question that and just see if that's really true.
Yeah, I'm always looking for things that leaders can take away. Through that bit of conversation, it just reminded me of a couple of things. One is the kind of, we're all quite polite in British society, aren't we? So it's kind of almost the really question, or look, it's okay to be angry about this, and is is almost an encourager that a leader could use to, because you almost want to help that person release the anger to get
Yeah.
to be resilient, don't you?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a norm British thing to do.
No, I think it's such a shame, isn't it? That being British has got its downsides, but I think we're very polite and we don't open up and we don't get angry with certain things. But it's interesting when we do. I sit on the fence. I'm not very opinionated. I don't really get angry about much stuff. So when I do get angry or do get opinionated or get passionate about something, I know that's something I need to be working on. It's kind of like a no-brainer for me. So in that sense, it can be good. It's kind of like a filter system, I guess.
The other thing that you said, and I know I'm taking this probably slightly out of context, is obviously it was I could feel the emotion when you said earlier on that you felt like you'd gone back.
Yeah.
You know, where you're having the extra occasion, you couldn't stretch your leg. And in a tiny way, it's probably really easy for any leader, any human, to make a comment that could be perceived as that person has gone back. That's quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You've got to be careful. You've got to be so careful what you say with leaders, managers, executives when you're speaking to your colleagues. And it's about so when you're hearing information, it's about hearing it from the right person. That if you respect them and you trust them, then you can see that as feedback, constructive feedback. If you don't trust them, if you don't like them or anything like that, then they're just giving you bad information, and you're just like, I don't like that, and I don't like you, and so you're not going to do much with it. But if you do respect them, and that's important. Now, I talk about this when I'm doing my speaker coaching, because there's a group called the Professional Speaking Association, and there's a chance, an opportunity for you to stand up in front of a room of 30 speakers and do a 10-minute slot on your keynote. And afterwards, you get feedback from the floor. And this is valuable feedback. This is not clients. It's behind closed doors. So this is how you get better and better and better before you go out to the big wide world. And you're doing that, and it's harsh because you're taking all these notes and you're dictaphoning it and everything like that. And it's quite hard to take it all on board because you've obviously prepared and rehearsed for it to do the best 10 minutes ever. And they're saying you could do this better. Have you thought about using that? And you could swing it around to the audience. And what about interaction? You could use the stage better. What about a prop? And what about your voice? And you could higher and lower it, and you can make it more funny. And you're like, okay, crikey, thanks for that. But it's all good stuff because the people in the room are professional speakers. You respect them. You're saying thank you. And the other side of that, bit of a contradiction, is that every speaker is different. So you do take the information on board, and some of it you take, you do some action with, and others you go, actually, thanks for your input, but that's not the kind of speaker that I want to be. So that's fair. That's just your opinion. So you could almost say it's all opinionated. Now, this does get difficult because you think, well, should I take it or should I not take it? That comes with experience and comes with knowledge about, the speaking profession. But I think it's the same for leaders and managers. That if you do respect them, you appreciate them, you trust them, you like them, then when they give you some feedback, when they give you some criticism, whether it's positive or negative, you take it on board, but you can also filter it as well as to, well, you're that kind of a manager. I don't know if I actually want to be that kind of a manager or leader. So it's about getting it across. And again, you use your own filter system. Don't just bin it all, but you take it on and use your common sense as to which bits you're going to take on board. And again, this is where it might be good to share with somebody else as to what do you think? Because I've got this advice and this criticism. Do you think that's good? Do you think that's good? What should I do with it? And sharing it with other people. Don't take it all on board yourself.
Good tip. And in terms of motivation,
yeah,
because I know I think in one of your books you talk about motivation being a great start point. Tell us a bit more about that and how it links to supporting someone through resilience.
So motivation is a great start point, but be careful because inspiration and motivation, which is what I am, a motivational speaker, it only lasts for about 48 hours, and then you probably go back to where you were in the first place. So as soon as you've been motivated, whether it's watching a YouTube clip or TikTok or listening to me on the stage or talking or watching this podcast, of course, once you've been motivated, you've got to take action. You've got 48 hours, like a ticking clock. You've got to start putting something in place, change your routine, change your habits, do start doing something in that 48 hours so that you can keep doing it for the rest of your life, or maybe not, or however long you want to. But if you don't do something in 48 hours, you're going to go back to the norm and go, oh, yeah, that was quite motivating. Anyway, back to life, and you'll just carry on the same old, same old. So it is about getting those habits and those routines in place. And it's about how you're going to do that by making it easy to do those routines and things like that, to make changes in your house, in your workplace, talk to the people, make a list, make an action plan, start working towards that, so that you know it's kind of like bedded in stone. Because yeah, you're right, James. Motivation is literally just the start of it.
I love that concept. That's like, well, hang on, 48 hours.
Yeah.
It's almost, I don't know, if somebody pays to go, let's just say somebody pays to go and see you speak at a gig or something, they almost need to be, I'm sure you've got loads of techniques you use to make sure they do something with it. But from a look at it, it's almost a case of, well, this is going to be a waste of money unless I do at least one action as a result of it. Now,
yeah, it's the same with everything. If you read a book, do a course, training course, if you go and see a speaker, you've got to do the follow up. You've got to take action. And I know some of us are guilty. A lot of us are guilty. I'm guilty. I'm kind of talking about myself here of not always doing that. Or sometimes we're selective, and maybe that says something. Maybe the course that you did maybe wasn't for you if you've not actually followed up on it. But you're absolutely. So what I do when I do my talk, depending on how much time I've got, so my talk takes me about 45 minutes. I'm giving an hour slot. That last 15 minutes, we can do a micro workshop. And this is very much about the number one activity that all high achievers do to have success in their life. The number one. And this is what I use. Now, I didn't realize it was number one when I was using it. And what I did is when I was going through my rehabilitation, I drew a picture of what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to stand again and walking. And so I drew a picture of me up a mountain. What I was doing was opening up to my RAS, my reticular activating system, to focus on what I wanted to achieve rather than what I wanted to avoid. There were so many people in this world that focus on what they want to avoid, as in, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be lonely, I don't want to be overweight, I don't want to be unhealthy, I don't want to be unhappy. And it's just to change that concept to the opposite of that. I want to be popular, I want to be happy, I want to be fit and healthy, I want to be rich. And thinking about that, and again, I think it could come down to the British way sometimes as well. It's like, it's too boastful and too big-headed. I'm not saying you're going to shout it out from the rooftops. You've got to say it to yourself, at least, about focus on what you want to achieve rather than what you want to avoid. Now, only 20% of people in the world do this, and they are the high achievers. So the activity at the end of the session is to get everybody in the room to draw a picture. That's it. Just draw a picture of what you want to achieve in the future, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. You want to be alive? Great. Draw a stick person, use smiley face. What makes you happy? Lots of money, going on holiday, nice house, car. Do you want a swimming pool in the house? You can have a swimming pool. It's fine. It's just a picture. You can have 2 cars and a bike. You can have a pet. You can fall in love hearts. Just draw the picture of what you see yourself in the future being, that person, and be the person that you want to be. And that picture that is on a card, they then take that card away with them. They've taken action. And it's so nice to see people walk out with that card. I encourage them to put it on their fridge or to put it in the bathroom or somewhere they're going to see it every single day, because that will help them to focus on what they want to achieve, not on what they want to avoid. And so, encouraging people to take action during my sessions is a really important thing. Now, obviously, there's other things they can do after that as well, and that leads to the workshops, and that leads to the one-to-one coaching. But they've just started with a picture. Hopefully, they get excited, energized, see the passion about what that picture brings to them, and say, "I can help you achieve that picture that you've just drawn. I can do that. I know how to do that." And
you've made it real. They've made it real. They've taken the time to think about it and make it real. Are there any other tips that you would give for leaders? And because I guess as a leader, you've not only got to build up your resilience for yourself, you've potentially got to support others as well. Any other tips that you would give, Steve?
I think it's mainly about what we've talked about making sure that everybody around you understands not only the wave of resilience, but understanding your team's goals as well. So I did this really interesting workshop once where it was a small company, it was a design company, 15 people. We went around the room, they all drew a picture, and I asked her, "What have you drawn?" And there's a 21-year-old, and she'd drawn a picture of her traveling. She's graphic designer. But I want to travel. So I will probably have my notice at some point and I'll go traveling because that's what I really want to do. blah, blah, blah. And she felt a bit embarrassed, but it was really good that she'd shared, she'd been open about what she wanted to do. We worked all the way around to the managing director, and she shared what she had drawn. And then she said, can I just go back to Gemma about the picture that she drew? And everyone's like, what? Because she said she wanted to be made redundant. She wanted to jack a job in and travel the world. And she said, Gemma, do you realise that we've got offices around the world? We've got one in New York, and we've got one in Canada, and we've got one in China now. Would you like to work in one of those offices at some point? And Gemma said, that would be amazing. She said, well, let's make it happen. Let's talk later and we'll see if we can sort something out. And that's what you get. By knowing what your team's focus is on and what their vision is and what they really want can really help things. It doesn't mean that it has to be cloak and dagger. And I know that that's not easy just to share exactly what you want to do. But if you do want to go down to a 4-day week or a 3-day week or have early retirement, that actually might fit into the business plan that they've got. And they might know, oh, that's ideal. That's where we're thinking. Or you want people to work from home or not work from home. Once you're open and honest about your team, about what's going on inside their head, then I think things can flow a lot better and you can all work in unison as well.
That's a great example. And I guess one thing is for certain is if you don't share, then it's impossible for the lead of the business to help you get to somewhere they don't know where you want to get to, isn't it?
They have no idea. And can I just say, just go back to the not sharing thing, going to work every day and just saying, I don't like it here. I wish I was traveling the world, and not sharing, but bottling that in, letting it fester. That's not good for your mental health, as I've found out. And so one, it's good to share, and actually it might lead to new opportunities, and opportunities around us all the time, James. You got to see them, you got to hear them, you got to smell them. And when you do, you've got to grab hold of them with both hands and do something about it. But you only find those opportunities if, one, you're open to yourself about what you want, but then you talk to other people about what you want as well. And one of my focuses, one of my visions is to work in Japan. I would love to share my journey in Japan. So I'm just putting it out there, just in case any of your listeners know any contacts in Japan. There you go. But by being open and sharing, it seems a little bit cheeky, but somebody might say, oh yeah, actually I might be able to help you, Steve. And you go, that was quite easy, wasn't it? Now, I'm not saying it's always that easy, but the more people you share with what you want, what your passion is, where you're going on this journey, the more people will help you. People are nice people and they always want to help people. And so, if you share what you want, people will actually see if they can help you. And it's lovely.
Yeah, because there's somebody out there that's got what you need or the resources to help you. You've just got to find them, haven't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great.
I love that. We seem to have moved it around completely from resilience and getting out of rock bottom, which is vital. I'm sure people will need that skills, right up to sort of sharing and ending on a really positive note.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been lovely. It's really nice sharing these. It's something, I don't know if you can sense it. For me, we've talked about anger and impatience being like negative words. For me, I use the word frustration. I have a lot of frustration with other people that are just talking about stuff but not doing anything. That really frustrates me, and I want to really help them. So I guess I'm putting it out there that if you know anybody, if there's any listeners out there that do need help, that person that's always talking as in, I don't like this, I don't like that, I wish this would change, I wish this would be different, please get them to contact me because I would love to help them. It frustrates me that the people they don't do anything about it. They just moan and moan and moan. I was like, oh, come on, let me help you. So yeah, the frustration.
The thing about opportunities is that they're often really well disguised, aren't they?
Mm.
So if somebody came up to you at that moment you described earlier on, after 4 days of almost giving up, and say, Steve, I've got this great opportunity for you to change your life and become a global speaker, you'd have gone, kidding, aren't you?
Yeah.
But where do you think your kind of, you've gone through a lot and worked really hard to become who you've become, but where did that first present itself as an opportunity, do you think, looking back on it now?
I think it comes in stages. I think, when I was in bed in hospital, it's very much about survival. But the opportunities comes with the physio that comes in, with the exercise that you have to do. Every single one of those exercises is an opportunity for me to get better. I don't have to do them. There's no person holding a gun to my head or anything. They're just giving me the exercises. And for me, that was the way out. At one point, James, I was doing 21 different exercises a day, physio exercises. and every single one of those was an opportunity for me to get better and better and better. When I was doing a triathlon, I did my first para triathlon, and I crossed the finish line after a swim, bike, and run. And somebody came up to me and said, "Steve, congratulations, you've won in your category. You are now British champion in your category. Would you like to represent Great Britain?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I would love to represent Great Britain." That is an opportunity that I grabbed. I could have said, "Look, I'm really busy. I've got a full-time job. I've got a family with 2 kids. How on earth am I going to fit that in?" And I don't know how I did fit it in because I still had all of that stuff. But it's an opportunity to represent Great Britain and to wear the GB kit and do all of that and fly out to China and Beijing and cross that finish line to become a world champion. Amazing. And now my business, there's opportunities out there all the time to speak at big conferences in front of thousands of people, to inspire and motivate them to fulfill in their life and have happiness. And that to me is an opportunity. And that still comes down to things like this, James. Talking to you today, for me, it's been an opportunity to share my wisdom, my vision, my knowledge, my tools, and to help people, to inspire and to motivate. But we know it's more than that. They need to take action. So today's been an absolute blessing. So thank you very much for the opportunity that we've had.
Pleasure. Thank you for being so open. Before you go, I ask everyone this: have you got a book recommendation for people?
A book I've just finished reading a book. It's not a business book though. It's called Scott and Sid.
Scott and Sid.
And it's a film and it's a book as well, clearly. So what's it about? Scott and Sid, 15-year-olds, like chalk and cheese, and they want to be rich. And so they start cleaning ovens. I'm not going to give too much away, but they start cleaning ovens and that's successful. Then they start a media business and that's really successful. And they work really hard and they call themselves the Dream Chasers. And they have this list of things that they want to do before they're 30. And so you're following them. Basically, it's very inspiring because by the age of 25, they were millionaires. But they always get a little bit bored, especially Scott. And Scott said to Sid, he says, "Look, I'm really bored." He said, "Well, we're doing really well, though. We've made lots of money." He says, "Yeah, but what else is on the list?" And they looked down the list and said, "Oh, look at that." And it says, "Make a film before we're 30. And so they do that. And that is the film that I watched. And that is the book that they wrote. They made a film. They became film producers before the age of 30. And you just think, what's next? Wow, these guys are amazing. Now, I've really been inspired and motivated by that. Have I taken action? Absolutely. I'm trying to get in touch with Scott and Sid because they can help me with my feature-length film about my journey as well. So they're Yorkshire-based. They're based in York. But it's a really inspiring... It's a true story. That's the thing as well. And you just think... I'm not saying if they can do it, I can do it. But it kind of gives you this openness that you think, wow, things are achievable. I heard this quote the other day, and it's really nice, that, when things aren't certain, anything is possible. And I like that. So you never know.
Nice.
Looking on if things aren't certain, anything's possible. So go for it.
Fantastic. That sounds great. I'll investigate that myself.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
No problem, James. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.